Hey everyone, just a quick side note before we get started with this week's episode. We actually have a section devoted to Tetris Effect, which really can't be discussed effectively unless we show it to you so you can see and hear what's going on with that game. So if you're watching this podcast on YouTube, you're good to go. I'll have a video playing over that section of the podcast. But if you're listening to the audio, I'll upload a video version to our YouTube channel so you guys can check it out. Anyway, enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to episode 23 of Starside Cafe. Starside Chat.
You did what I usually do.
Yeah, this is the podcast called Starside Chat that is for the YouTube channel Starside Cafe. My name is Aaron, and I am joined by my co-host Zach. Hello, Zach.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and I have to confess, I am cooking a test turkey tonight because I'm hosting Thanksgiving for the first time.
Are you deep frying one?
No.
That's dangerous. That's very dangerous.
No, it's been a whole affair because it had to defrost for a couple of days, and then we brined it overnight, and now we put it in the oven like an hour and a half ago, so it should come out right around the time we conclude this podcast. I'm going to eat a bunch of turkey. I had a very light dinner.
Are you going to eat like the entire turkey between now and Thanksgiving and then be sick of it by the time Thanksgiving actually rolls around?
It's a very good question because I am planning on making a ton of turkey sandwiches in between this Thursday and next Thursday.
Yeah,
so I guess we'll see.
You're going to get to Thanksgiving and be like, no thanks. I'm good.
What about you? How are you preparing for the holiday?
I am not preparing at all. I am just going to arrive ready to eat when my family's like, hey, time to eat. And I'll just eat some food and feel gross for the rest of the day as usual. How is your Red Dead Redemption 2 adventure going?
I have not played a lot because I have been, my semester is slowly wrapping up and I have a bunch of projects going on, but I've progressed the story a little bit. I just went on, here, I'll tell you exactly how far I am. I just went on a little fishing trip with Jack.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
How far are you? You're probably way past that.
I want to say I just started chapter 4.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not too much further than the last time we talked about Red Dead Redemption. Mm-hmm. But I have also been pretty busy with school, and then just like other stuff has been coming out that I've been trying to keep up with. So my Red Dead Redemption playthrough has been put on hold for like the last week or so. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to diving in like post Thanksgiving when I actually have some time to really dig into it.
Yeah.
But
that will be nice.
We should get to the news.
Yeah, it's going to be a good show because there's a lot of stuff to talk about and it's all pretty interesting.
We got breaking news today. So breaking that both of us put it in our notes app separate of each other.
Separately.
It's so crazy. But Sony announced today that they will not only will they not be doing a press conference at E3 this year, they're not going to have a presence at all at E3 for the first time since the inception of E3, like something like 25 years or something like that.
That is crazy. And also like a huge blow to E3 like that. Like all the other like presentations have been pulling out and doing their own like side show, like just adjacent to E3. So like Sony was one of their big presenters and now they're gone as well. So
what an insane thing. Because also, and I forgot about this, but in the articles I was reading, I was reminded of it. They also do that PlayStation Experience and they canceled that this year also.
Yeah, so I was reading the Variety article, which I'll post in the show notes, but they were talking about how the reason why they canceled that, and most likely the reason why they're canceling E3 for next year, because I would imagine this is about the time they're like looking at the beginning stages of planning their next E3 presentation. But yeah, they said now that we have Spider-Man out the door, this is Sean Layden, chairman of Sony Interactive Entertainment, Now that we have Spider-Man out the door, we're looking down in 2019 to games like Dreams and Days Gone, but we wouldn't have enough to bring people together in some location in North America to have that event. We don't want to set expectations really high and then not deliver on it, which, depending on who you ask, is what happened in 2018.
Yeah.
Just because they had sort of they only concentrated on 4 games. And it makes you wonder, one, like it feels like confirmation that the PS5 is coming out in 2020, but also that makes you wonder, are games like Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2, and Death Stranding even coming out next year at all, or are they PS5 games?
So this is interesting because I thought the wide speculation was that this coming E3 2019, was where Xbox was going to unveil. The timetable would be Xbox unveils their new consoles at this E3, and then like holiday or next E3 is when they're going to be coming out. And it's crazy that only Xbox would unveil a new console and like PlayStation would not, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like the last 2 times it's been head to head, and now like Xbox is going to get out ahead of them.
That's true. I don't know. This seems really strange to me that not only are they like not doing a presentation at E3, but they're also not. They said specifically that they're not planning on having any sort of presentation around that time either. So even if like I initially was like, oh, they're just gonna, do their own show, just like sort of E3 adjacent like everybody else is doing. And then like if you keep reading these reports about this, they clearly state that that's not in the plans. They're not going to do that. So it is wild to me that they're not going to do anything. And yeah, Microsoft could just like come out swinging and be like, hey, we have all these developers working on exclusive games for us. Here's our next console. And then nothing from Sony at all.
That's the thing. Like this past E3, Microsoft definitely won. They had a strong opener. They had tons of games. They had a strong closer. And like you said, Sony really didn't. They showed 4 things. There was a weird interim. Like it was very poorly planned out, it seemed. A man played a flute for a while.
Well, there was a venue swap where they had built these 2 separate like studios or stages or whatever. Yeah, that was very unnecessary and had to have cost a lot of money for them to do.
But also, like besides that, putting that aside, the previous 2 E3s, Sony, I feel like won without a doubt. Yeah. Like there was the God of War one, and then the other one, I can't remember. Like they do good like presentations, and then they had this year. But I don't know. I feel like the bragging rights are like, oh, we won E3, and they didn't win last year. But are they just saying like, well, we're not going to try anymore? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why not go to the big game?
Well, and here's a question, because initially when Nintendo started doing Nintendo Directs instead of, a big E3 presence, you started to wonder, well, is this the way forward? Is everybody just going to be like, it doesn't make sense for us to do this big, expensive, planned presentation at E3. Why not just release little videos updating people when we're ready to do them? And then everything is controlled. You don't have like this awkward, people trying to play a game in front of a live audience and worrying about hiccups and things like that happening. So people were wondering if that was going to happen with both Microsoft and Nintendo, where they were just going to stop doing presentations altogether and they were just going to go with pre-made videos. And so I wonder if maybe that's what Sony's going to start doing, but they have PSX and they canceled it. So
I really hope, like I love E3. It's my favorite time of year because of the spectacle. I know that it might make more economic sense and be more viable to like parse things out at your own pace. But, just like the tech and all the prep that goes into making those crazy displays, because the stages always look so insane and there's always like crazy lighting effects. It was snowing at one point. In one of the press conferences, I remember.
Yeah.
It's all great. Like, there's mixed reality stuff. I hope that this is not a thing where Sony's like, we're not going to do this. And then everybody else is like, oh, that's a decision we can make. Let's also not do this.
Well, I mean, that's already been happening. Like, that's a decision that other like studios like Bethesda and EA have already done. Like, that has already been made. The problem is that E3 is just going to eventually cease to be because nobody else is going to be left to do presentations. And well,
I hope not.
The thing is, like, E3 as we know it may like eventually go away, but since everybody is essentially doing their own sort of E3 thing separately, but like right next door, so sort of adjacent, maybe, E3 goes away and they call it something else, but, everybody just has all these sort of separate but together presentations like right around the same time.
As long as I get my like 3 to 4 days worth of press conferences all next to each other, I'm going to be fine. But it's a bummer because I always look forward to Sony's because, I mean, we both have PlayStations. Yeah. And, I still like Microsoft's because I like, the surprises and the one more things. But I like for my console to be represented. Yeah,
I keep waiting for them to say, okay, we're not going to have an E3 press conference, but we're still going to do this. So it could still happen that they have something to show off, but I can't imagine they don't show anything at all, like all next year.
What if this is a smoke screen? Like, what if this is a baller move where, like, a day before, they're like, guess what? Check this out in 24 hours. And then they unveil the PS5 like 2 hours before Microsoft's press conference.
Oh, so you mean they're trying to like steal their thunder?
Yeah, this is a total smokescreen, and they're just going to constantly say like, we don't have anything planned. We don't have anything planned. Like a week out, we're going to start hearing rumors like, hey, some weird company no one's ever heard of has rented out this venue right around wherever they do E3, and no one is pretty sure. Like maybe it's Sony. We don't know. All the press show up. It's Sony. They actually do have something, and they're like, guess what? PS5. That would be crazy.
That would be crazy, but I think that's
wishful thinking. If their whole press conference was a one more thing, taking it to the next level, Zach.
But then it's not one more thing anymore. It's everything all at once.
But, one more everything.
Yeah, everything is one more. But
oh my god, I hope that happens.
That would be cool, but I do want them to still have some sort of a presence around that time. They're definitely indicating that they're not. Also,
it's so crazy they wouldn't rent space on the floor.
Yeah, even to just like show off the games they have left to come out on PS4 before PS5 launches. It just seems
what if the opposite? What if we don't hear anything about the PS5 this year?
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we heard nothing about the PS5 this year.
Man, that would be insane.
Well, and part of that is because everything I've seen from like rumors from industry insiders and like gaming journalists, they all are pointing to a 2020 PS5 release. So I'm pretty sure them backing out of E3 for 2019 is basically just confirmation of that. Because
do you think
you don't, if you have a console that you're about to release a few months later, you don't back out of the biggest like
for sure
show in games. So
do you think they'll be back ever? Or do you think this is it? There are no more E3s for Sony?
I don't know. That's the question moving forward. Like, what are they going to do instead of that is question one. And question two is, will they ever be back at E3? And I don't know. Maybe they are planning something crazy like you say, and I kind of hope that they are, but I don't know. I have no idea where they go at this point.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about more of this in the coming weeks, but should we move on to some Fallout 76?
Yeah, so Fallout 76 came out this week, and the servers were perhaps accidentally live like the day before, but there was like supposed to be a day one patch that I guess was not active, so people were playing Fallout 76 ahead of schedule, but they were maybe not playing the version of it that Bethesda intended. But anyway, that is just a small story that may have been more interesting if we recorded earlier in the week. But
well, I mean, we can skip ahead a little bit and kind of roll into engine talk if you like.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. So Bethesda sort of not officially came out and said that they are still using the same engine as Fallout 76 for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. And it's become this whole big controversy because a lot of people are not super into the current engine that Bethesda's using because it feels kind of old. And Fallout 76 has a lot of like technical limitations as a result of it. Like, I think the frame rate is typically not very good in the game, especially on console. And even on like powerful PCs, it seems to be capped at like around 60. And most people, especially with really high-end gaming PCs, like to run their games at much higher frame rates than that. And most games will allow them to do that, but the engine seems to be the problem with Fallout 76. But yeah, so it's been this whole big thing. Although I did link an article where Kotaku's talking about how the controversy over the game engine is kind of misguided, specifically because people say, you know, when we talk about a game engine, we think of it as like this one piece of hardware that a company uses to build a game. And you want like the best possible version of that. But the truth is that a game engine is so much more than like one thing. It's a lot of different pieces that go into what a game engine actually is. So the fact that like a game engine isn't made up by like a single program or piece of technology. It's like a collection of software and tools and everything that's sort of constantly changing. And Bethesda has been making sort of upgrades to it as they go, their whole process. And you can tell that even with Fallout 76, like the lighting and the textures and the sort of outdoor foliage look so much better in Fallout 76 than in Fallout 4. But there's still a lot of technical limitations, so I don't really know what the answer is, honestly.
It's interesting because I agree with you. I mean, a good example is months and months ago on a podcast, I remember talking about how I think it was like Mario Rabbids is on the same engine as The Division, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
So definitely, like, it's basically just a framework. But having said that, playing even like Oblivion and then playing Fallout 4, you can tell it's kind of the same engine. There's like the floaty-ish jumping and this similar physics and, you know, like hold E to pick something up and things like that. And just kind of whip it around and like play with the physics. I don't know. I'm not sure what I want from an Elder Scrolls 6. I want deeper systems, I think. I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways, Fallout 4 was a straight line from Fallout 3. It was different in some ways, but very, very similar in other ways. And I want a departure, I think, with Skyrim and especially, not Skyrim, Elder Scrolls 6, whatever it's called.
And especially Starfield.
Especially Starfield.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I don't want it to be a thing where I can use the same glitches. It just
feels like Fallout, but in space.
Exactly, yeah. I don't want there to be some sort of VAT system. I want, like, I guess I'm not sure what I want, but I don't want the same old stuff, you know? I almost want a new engine, even though that's what we're talking about, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe
I think that's what everyone wants, and that's why this is a controversy in the first place. But
it'll depend on how much they change it. I mean, as long as I don't really care super about graphics, it could look all blocky and not realistic, and I would be fine with that. It's just like I
mean, to me, and I think to a lot of people, frame rate is more important than like super high resolution and like crazy realistic graphics. And the fact that Fallout 76 literally is so technically limited that it can't deliver on that the way people want is sort of the thing that they're taking issue with, regardless of whether people are using the term engine correctly. But you're right. Like this Kotaku article mentions the fact that Octopath Traveler and Days Gone are both using Unreal Engine 4, but because the art styles and like the type of game that they are so wildly different, you would never know just looking at them.
Every game that Bethesda has made that's like Fallout 4, Skyrim, Oblivion, things like that, the combat has been not super great. Like
Yeah.
you can tell, like when you're hitting something, even if it's a lead pipe or if it's a sword, swinging something does not feel super good. Stealth is very similar, like in that engine in all of their games, and I want deeper systems, I guess. I want changed, more unique. Like,
well, yeah,
I feel like I already know what it's going to be like to pick a lock, you know?
Yeah, that's true. And we definitely know that, especially because I've played a lot of Skyrim and even Fallout 4 didn't feel too far removed from that. And yeah, like a lot of the combat, especially when it's melee and just like the third person mode in those games, do feel very clunky and clumsy. But yeah, so it would be nice if they would sort of, I don't know if they need a new engine to totally redesign the way that works to make it better than it is now. But so I guess we should say, like, the reason why this is becoming such a big deal online is because in some interview, Todd Howard was quoted as saying, "For Fallout 76, we have changed a lot. The game uses a new renderer, a new lighting system, and a new system for the landscape generation. For Starfield, even more of it changes, and the Elder Scrolls 6 out there on the horizon even more." So I don't know if they've since confirmed. They might have, and I just haven't seen it. But
I have two wishes for these next two Bethesda games. Something that feels very antiquated and was still in Fallout 4. Every time you go into a building, there's a load time. Even in Breath of the Wild, they got rid of that. Like Red Dead Redemption, there's no load times. I want seamless going into buildings, going into caves, dungeons, whatever. I feel like there was so much cheap stuff you could do where you could run from someone and then just like load into another zone and they wouldn't be there. Also, I want combat and spells to be more interesting.
Yeah.
Or whatever Starfield has.
That would be nice. Yeah, we don't know if there's going to be that in Starfield or not. There may be, there may not be. But yeah, I think you're right. I think most of us want there to not be loading screens whenever you're entering a building or anything.
Imagine, like, think about that. That's crazy.
Well, but how would that work in like a space RPG?
Do you think you're going to have a spaceship in Starfield? Or do you think it's all going to take place on one space station / planet or something?
Who can say? I kind of hope there's a spaceship and you're traveling around, but
how big? Like, that would be crazy. I would like that. I want it to be giant, but also like, I don't want to load, like every Bethesda game, you just like open a door and then you're looking at a character model for like 30 seconds and like spinning it around. Like I'm done with that. You know, I want there to be, that's the main thing. Like I was expecting, especially since it's probably going to be next gen, I was like, oh, they have been working on a new engine and it is going to be crazy. They've been using the same engine since Oblivion and it's going to be great. But that's not the case. But I don't know. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe it's not I guess it remains to be seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in wait and see mode because we don't really know what Starfield is gonna be anyway. So it might be fine that they're not changing the engine. Again, that's like a blanket term, but they're using the same methods essentially to make Starfield, and they're just sort of updating things as they go. I'm hopeful that it's good because I really want Starfield to be good. And like, to be honest, like, I know the loading screen thing is annoying, but I like Bethesda games.
Yeah, I mean,
I always
that's true.
have. So, I mean, I'll probably be fine with it and play those games anyway.
100%. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm in wait and see mode too. I'm cautiously optimistic, but should we shift gears?
Yeah, I don't know how you segue to the next thing we have to talk about, so go for it.
Zach, there's going to be a Pokemon movie, but it's not going to be the story of Ash. It's not going to be something where it's some kid being like, I want to be a Pokemon trainer. I'm going to catch a bunch of Pokemon, and then there's going to be the Elite Four. It seems like a mix between Blade Runner and like Zootopia almost.
I'm not really getting the...
that's a metaphor my friend came up with.
I'm not really getting the Blade Runner vibes. Like, I get that it's at like a
they were like walking around in the streets
sort of a thing
at nighttime, and it was
point.
like raining, and there were like noodle stalls.
Yeah, I guess I can see that, but I mean, I don't know if that necessarily gives it Blade Runner vibes, but
I mean, that first shot where he's walking into Rhyme City was like...
Well, so here's a question. What do you think of when you think of Pokemon?
Pikachu?
Sure, but you think of sort of rural, outdoors, you think of
Kanto.
Countryside. Yeah, you think of Kanto. You think of sort of nature. You think of going out in the woods and finding all these creatures and everything. You don't think of downtown big city, and you definitely don't think of Pokemon talking with a human voice. Like, why would this be the first Pokemon movie they make?
It's interesting because they didn't go for what everyone would expect. They didn't go for, the story of a trainer or whatever. They went with this weird side story, which is of like a pre-existing property, which is Detective Pikachu, which I guess is games and maybe also a comic. I'm not sure if it's an anime.
I know it exists. I don't know anything about it though.
But it's very interesting. And actually,
so I will say,
canonically, Pikachu can talk.
Really? Well, I mean, in like a human voice?
Yes. That happened in the last movie, and it blew everyone's mind.
What?
Yeah, they were like, I don't know the context, but Ash was like, Pikachu, why don't you ever want to get back in your ball? Cut Pikachu. And Pikachu literally says in a human voice, because I always want to be with you. There's a great video of people watching it in theaters, and Pikachu says that, and the theater explodes with people being like, what is going on?
Well, so did the voice sound like an adult male voice, or was it like...
No, it sounded like a child's voice.
It sounded like Pikachu, right? Like the voice...
I remember when this was first announced, there was a big campaign, or at least a rumor, that Danny DeVito was going to be the voice of Pikachu.
Which, my gosh, I don't even know what that would have been like. Here's the thing. Like,
You're anti this trailer.
I'm fine with this in theory. I think it looks better than anyone expected it to. And I like the idea that it's a live action Pokemon movie. But I kind of also at the very same time hate every time I hear Deadpool's voice coming out of Pikachu.
See, I don't associate Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool as much as...
I do, like, so much, and I can't not be like, when is, Ryan Reynolds gonna make a joke in the next Deadpool movie about how he played Pikachu? And
100% that's gonna happen.
Like, why, I don't know. This seems wrong to me on some level.
It's interesting, because, like, this posits a world, if this is successful, which I feel like it's gonna be, because everyone loves Pokemon and everybody loves Ryan Reynolds. He's like on a hot streak right now. I feel like I also read a rumor that he's going to be in some movie where he discovers that he is a background NPC in someone else's video game, which seems like an interesting...
that sounds cool to me, but like...
What I'm saying is, like, he gets it. He's like picking the right projects, and like America, the world, is having a love affair with Ryan Reynolds because of his like ability to pick projects where he can sort of play the same character over and over again.
Well, and I like Ryan Reynolds, but to a point, like, people will eventually get tired of him just picking the same kind of role over and over again. It's a little bit like you watch a Tim Burton movie, like, Johnny Depp's in this one too.
What's Grindelwald gonna do this time?
Yeah, I don't know.
Which, by the way, that came out tonight, and I've heard terrible reviews about it.
Oh, really?
Franchise killer, I've heard.
Well, they've got to make like 20 more of these movies. I don't know if you know this. Also, that whole series is based on like some book that was referenced in like the Harry Potter. Like, it's based on nothing.
She's writing it, isn't she? Isn't J.K. Rowling writing it?
She is, but she's like, they picked it up because originally this was just like a book that was in the Harry Potter universe. And she's like, I'm going to flesh this thing out. And now it's going to be like 20 more movies, but I don't know.
So you're overall cold on this trailer. Is that correct to say?
I don't know. I have very mixed feelings about this, and part of me thinks it might be fine. Like, I think it might have a nice sense of humor. The trailer seems to have a nice sense of humor. The main actor, who's like he's not really a child, I guess, but the sort of the main character of this seems like, a solid actor who's not like doing this dumb, campy thing that a lot of people may have expected him to do. So it seems like they're kind of treating it a little bit more, not like seriously, but it's like not full on camp, which is
like they could have gone full like this is for kids, but I think they realized like a bunch of people grew up with Red and Blue are now like our age.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Pokemon is it's been around for so long that half the audience is children who are just discovering Pokemon, and the other half are now adults who've grown up with the series, and so they have to kind of adhere to both audiences, and this does a pretty, just from the trailer alone, if I'm like being objective about it, they did a good job with it.
I think so. I'm excited to see this. Side note, are you excited for that Alita Battle Angel?
Is that the one? I always forget. I think I know what you're talking about.
They came out with a new trailer earlier this week. I think it's the final trailer.
It's the one with Christoph Waltz, right? And
yeah, he is like a guy and he finds the girl with the big eye robot.
Yeah. I haven't seen the new trailer, but I'm aware of it.
Are you interested in that at all, or is that something you feel like you're going to pass on?
I would watch it. I don't know if I'll end up seeing it in the theater or if it'll be like a rental later. It depends on if I can get somebody to go to it with me, and knowing most of my circle, they probably will not be into going to that movie, so. It
looks like what I wanted, and I haven't seen this, it looks like what I wanted Ghost in the Shell to be. Like, I like that futurist,
I can see
like
that.
Body modification cyborg type deal. And also, I love a story. This is like, it makes sense because it's based on an anime. But I love a story where there's just like one person who's coming into a situation who's super powerful, like the Goku effect, basically, where people are like, who are you? And then you just start taking names. And it seems like that's what this girl is she's like some crazy prototype and she just like can't lose, which I'm very interested in. And the CG does not look super annoying. That's what made me think of that, is like, I'm sort of on board for the Detective Pikachu CG. Like they made Pokemon furry, which people are it's controversial.
Yeah, mixed it up.
Yeah, there's mixed. But like Jigglypuff, there's a shot of Jigglypuff who has tufts of hair.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like CG is in an okay place right now as long as they're not trying to completely CG a person like they did in Rogue One.
Yeah, well, so there was, like, for a long time, people were over-relying on CG, and people, like, audiences were getting angry about it, and they were just not into it. And so it was this big thing to, bring back practical effects, and now we're hitting, like, a nice midpoint where, like, the CG, the technology for that has actually gotten to the point where you can make convincing CG characters, but also not only relying on CG the entire time. So movies are looking better than they have in recent years. But I agree. I think it's fine. Like that. I forget the name of the other movie you mentioned already, but
Alita.
Yeah, I would watch that movie for the same reasons that you want to watch it. I enjoy the concepts there, and I think it's sort of weird because you can tell that it's not real, like it's fake, it's animated, but it looks just convincing enough that it's not offensive.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that she's supposed to be made out of like alloys or whatever explains why she has giant eyes. Like she's supposed to be a made thing. But I'm interested. Also, I mean, one more little bit of movie news. Speaking of CG, I think the 2 Avatar sequels wrapped production this week.
Yeah, I heard that.
Get ready for a ton of CG. Isn't that crazy that came out 12 years ago or some insane crazy number ago? And now we're getting 2 back-to-back sequels that are supposed to be coming out a year apart.
Yeah, I don't know why it took so long, but they had a lot of money to spend on those. So I guess it takes long when you have to spend that much money on stuff.
I think one of them is completely underwater.
Is it?
I think it's the oceans of Pandora.
Is Aquaman there?
I mean, wouldn't that be a crazy reveal? You know what else I read? This is 100% not going to happen. But what if this happens, Zach? What if Detective Pikachu ends? It was a good movie. The credits roll. Post-credits scene. Mario shows up.
That would be insane.
Pikachu, I need to talk to you about the Smash Brothers initiative.
I would love that so much. That would be amazing
Wouldn't that be insane?
If they turn this into like an Avengers style like cinematic universe and it's all like this big like Smash
Master
Brothers
Hand.
movie thing. Yeah.
They got to defeat Master Hand.
That would be incredible. And I would be totally down for that. I thought you were going to say, what if at the end of the movie the Detective Pikachu movie, they find a way to finally get Ryan Reynolds out of Pikachu's body, and then they both live happily ever after, separately as they should be. But no, I like this idea as well. I want them to bring in Mario, because they are going for
they're making that Mario movie.
They're doing it. They're making all the Nintendo cinematic universe.
I think they're making him we talked about Brie Larson being Samus also.
Yeah, I want that to happen so much. That would be awesome as well. Like, oh man, what if Mario shows up and does that at the end of Detective Pikachu, and then at the end of the Mario movie, he goes and is like, "Hey Samus, come help me out. I got a job for you." And then there's a Samus movie after that. Although the Mario movie is animated, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. But
well, that's a good point. But in Mario Odyssey, when he went to Metro City, he was still his little Mario self, and there were people walking around.
They've already made a precedent for it, so I feel like that's confirmation enough right there.
Man, he's just like Pikachu. There's like a rustling or something, and Pikachu turns around, and he's like, "Who's there?"
No,
and then
you gotta hear like some sort of Mario sound effect.
Well, I was going to say, he says, like, "Who's there?" And then from the shadows, you hear, "It's a me."
Oh, man. That'd be hilarious.
Should we move on to, you currently own Battlefield 5.
I do. So Battlefield 5 is not technically out yet. It comes out next week. I want to say Tuesday, but maybe it's later than that. But if you have Origin Access or whatever the other sort of subscription service dealie that they have, which is only available on PC and I believe Xbox. I don't think people are playing this on PlayStation yet, but you can play Battlefield 5. And so, yeah, people have been playing it. I've been playing it. I've been trying to record video, but I've been having so many issues with shadow play. I can't even begin to tell you about that. But yeah, Battlefield 5, I'm having fun with it. It's got some problems that they'll need to do an update for. Like sometimes it takes longer than it should to load like character models and textures and weapons, which is weird. But otherwise, the game looks really nice. It's running really well on my PC, and the sound design in all Battlefield games is amazing. But it's just like running around in this big like open map, and you have like planes flying overhead, you have tanks shooting off in the distance, and you have like the houses around you like splintering into little tiny pieces and like collapsing around you. It's just like, it's intense in a way that no other shooter is delivering. And so that's why I like the Battlefield series. I'm not very good at it on PC. I will say I am learning to adjust to mouse and keyboard controls, which this is the first Battlefield game I've ever played on PC. I've always played them on console before. So I'm not very good at it, but I am having a lot of fun with it nonetheless. I really like the squad play, and I want to do a video with you about it because you've never played a Battlefield game. So
no, I've seen footage from the last one, Battlefield 1.
Yeah. The naming convention doesn't make any sense at this point. Yeah.
But I haven't seen, aside from the E3 trailers, I have not seen a ton of gameplay from this new Battlefield.
Yeah, so that's another reason why I want to get some footage out there, because I guess people are streaming it or they've been playing it, but I feel like none of the big streamers are like jumping over to Battlefield for some reason.
Not until that Battle Royale comes out.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I really enjoy it. And the scores so far have been mostly positive. So I like that. I know there was a controversy like leading up to it just because people didn't like the fact that there were like girls in the game or whatever, which seems silly to me, but whatever. Yeah, I will put some footage together, or maybe I'll just like play for a while and record a bunch, and then like at some point you and I can just like sit there and watch through it, and you can like ask me questions. And
I'm very excited for that.
So yeah, that's a thing that is in the works, and hopefully we'll be able to get that video out and you can learn a little bit about Battlefield that way.
So the other thing, what is this ProjectXCloud? So
I'm going to warn you, I don't know a lot about this, but Microsoft has unveiled the game streaming technology ProjectXCloud.
This is Scarlet? Is this what Scarlet was?
I am not sure. Like, again, I don't know a lot about this. This was announced on Monday. It's just a global game streaming technology. I think this is really interesting stuff. They're testing it out.
This is basically Project Stream. This is Google's Project Stream. Yeah, this
is Microsoft's version of Project Stream, essentially. And the takeaways from this is that we're working towards a future where you will not be buying like consoles every 5 to 10 years. You're just going to pick up your phone and you'll have like sort of a Netflix style streaming service where you can start a game on your phone and then you'll go home and you'll pick up a controller and continue where you left off on your smart TV or go play on your computer. It's that kind of a thing. But they did say that this is like there's going to be one more console generation, and then after that is when we'll start seeing these streaming services come about.
So we still have a while. We have like 10 years.
Yeah, we've got some time for sure. I don't know how long the PlayStation 5 and next Xbox console generation is going to last, but like they're laying the groundwork now, and Project Stream and ProjectXCloud is part of that.
Interesting.
But I'll link to this article and you can read more if you want more information than that. I think it's interesting, but yeah, it's a ways out.
Another thing you linked that I had no idea about is the guys who make those headsets that everyone likes, those Astro headsets.
The Astro
they're
headsets.
making an official PS4 controller that looks insane.
This controller does look crazy to me. So it's got so many customizations that...
The Astro C40 TR.
Yeah, and so it's got like the back paddles or whatever for like extra buttons. It looks a little bit more like almost shaped like one of the Switch Pro controllers to me.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking too.
And so it's got the rear buttons, the trigger stops, and it looks like it's made of very nice materials, but like you can swap out the thumbsticks for like different length thumbsticks if you want, or like the concave or convex thumb pads. And like it's got these swappable modules, so you can basically open the face of the controller and just like swap your D-pad and your left thumbstick if you want a more Xbox style layout.
Yeah. If you can turn your PlayStation controller into the similar where the left analog stick is offset. Yeah. Like an Xbox controller, which I know a lot of people prefer.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is like the controller that should have come out with the PS4 like at launch to sort of help wean
this is the
Xbox players off of Xbox onto PlayStation. And I remember there was a controller that was not this intense, but there was like an Xbox style controller for the PS3. So I wonder kind of why it took so long, but this one looks insane, and it's got 12 plus hour battery life. It's got a travel case.
It comes with a carrying case.
Yeah.
I think it's $200.
I think it is also. These are very expensive, but I mean, this is like, and I would assume you could plug this into your PC and use it there as well. So I mean, it's not like, well, now I can only use this very expensive thing if I want to play my PlayStation games, but. We'll link to that. The video, you'll watch the video. It looks pretty crazy.
Definitely check the video out.
Yeah. Next up, I want you to get a sense of what this game is like that I've been playing recently. I was building up to this before we started recording because I have been playing Tetris Effect recently, which is not a game that you would expect to be excited about. But
is it on PC?
It is not. It is a PlayStation exclusive.
Okay.
But this is not your average Tetris game. So stick with me.
I'm going to start watching this video you sent me.
Yeah. Let me pull this up as well so I have this running. And we'll hit play at the same time. Okay, play. And you'll want your volume on, just not. Okay. Because so much of this game is in the overall like sensory experience of it. It's this really, really ridiculously satisfying bringing together of like really good music and mesmerizing visuals and what has to be like the best version of Tetris ever made. Like I'm not.
It seems very simplistic right now.
You have to hang with it and let it get going. There is a PSVR mode to this as well, so you can play this entirely.
That's why I know about this. Yeah, I heard there was a new VR Tetris game.
Yeah, so you either want to play this in PSVR or just on whatever like your largest TV is with a good sound system or like a really good headset.
I like this music.
Yeah, well, and the cool thing about it is, so watch as I like rotate the pieces, you will hear like the music change, or like it'll add a note to it, or it will like give some sort of audio effect. So like every time I move left or right, or every time I rotate one of the pieces, it's like contributing to the music. So you do feel like you're sort of an active participant in the music that you're hearing as it's happening. But also as you like clear lines, you're getting this like crazy visual feedback as well.
Yeah, you're like underwater. Oh yeah, there's fish in the background now.
Yeah, so this is the first level of it. So it kind of starts out slowly and builds to something. And then the rest of the levels are just like pretty crazy. But yeah, on top of like playing a puzzle game, you're getting this sort of it can be either as relaxing or as intense as you want it to be, but you're getting this sort of relaxing music and you're getting this crazy like visual component. And I can imagine playing this in VR would just be mind blowing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whoa, you got a combo. Oh, there's some stingrays or manta rays or whatever.
Yeah, the first one's underwater, so you're getting like sea creatures.
So is it always just a game of Tetris, or do they mix it up?
No, I think it's always Tetris. They have like, I guess there are slightly different rules that you can play by, and there are other modes that will kind of switch things up. And so as the like beat of a song picks up, the speed will sometimes pick up or slow down with like the music as it goes. But interestingly, this is named, so the game Tetris Effect is named for the phenomenon also known as Tetris syndrome, where people who spend a lot of time on a particular activity begin to have it sort of pattern their thoughts or like mental images and dreams. So like people will start thinking about how shapes fit together in the real world. Like if you're at the grocery store and you see all these boxes on the shelf, or they'll like dream about falling tetrominoes when they're sleeping, or like when they're about to go to sleep, they'll sort of see them as they have their eyes closed. And there have been actual studies done to show that playing Tetris leads to like a thicker cortex and increased brain efficiency. And the study found that the areas of the thicker cortex were in areas associated with critical thinking, reasoning, language, processing, and the planning of complex coordinated movements, which I'll link to the study that I looked up. But very interesting that you can like have this crazy experience, but also it's like good for you. Like apparently playing this game is good for your brain. And I think there've also been studies on how it's like helped people with PTSD. And I find that all very interesting.
Yeah, this is very fascinating.
But
it's very beautiful to watch as well.
Yeah, it's so mesmerizing. And that's why I knew, like, if I showed it to you and you could, like, see it and hear it, you might be more interested than if I just tried to explain it to you.
How much is it?
It is $40. I think the sweet spot would have been $30. And it also would have been nice if it was on Switch.
Oh my God, yes.
So a little disappointed about that, but I guess it makes good use of the fact that it's on PlayStation with the VR support.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. I wonder how crazy it gets. I assume that's like just like all these fish being all around you. I could see that being very intense, especially this part right now that's happening. Yeah,
and maybe we'll move forward a little bit in the video so you get to. This was just another one of the levels I played because I kind of like the music, and it's kind of this like bubbly thing that's going on, and every time you rotate it, you get this, like, the sound design in this game is just so satisfying. Like, every time you rotate a piece, the way it, like, makes a sound effect, or every time you, like, snap it into, like, the other pieces. We're going to get into the Game Awards list, I think, at some point. And I don't remember seeing whether or not this was in the, like, sound category or not, but it should be, because it should be, yeah. It's so good. Just the overall aesthetic of this game.
Yeah, this is very beautiful. How far are you?
I think I've almost completed the journey mode, which is, like, I guess the equivalent to, like, a story mode. Mm-hmm. But then there's also just, like, extra sort of arcade modes that you can play, where you get sort of more a choose your own adventure, choose your own pace, that kind of a thing.
How often did you find yourself, like, stopped? Like, did you have to replay levels over again because it got too difficult?
Yeah, a couple of times, but that's another interesting thing about it, is because everything is so satisfying, it never bothered me that I needed to replay them if I, like, died or got stuck. So I think I haven't completed the last thing, which I think is, like, it's sort of almost a marathon where you have just, like, a lot of lines you have to clear, and the way it sort of ratchets up the speed at certain points gets kind of intense. But so I haven't completed that yet. I think that's the last of the journey mode. But that it didn't really bother me particularly, having to play stuff over again the way it does in a lot of other games.
This is, like, mesmerizing to watch.
It is very mesmerizing, and there's so many times that I wanted to, like, stop and enjoy just, like, what I was looking at. And sometimes I wouldn't, like, snap pieces specifically because I wanted to, like, rotate the pieces to add, like, the visual and audio component that adds to the whole thing. Mm. I don't know. I was having too much fun rotating pieces sometimes to actually, like, place them anywhere.
Talk to me about the controls. How do you rotate? Is it just like the X button, or is it the triggers?
So yeah, you move left and right with the D-pad. The joystick does not work.
Oh.
And I think down is sort of like a slow drop, and then if you hit up on the D-pad, you'll drop it all the way down, like, instantly.
Oh, interesting.
And then I think the face buttons handle rotation, and you can rotate both left and right. And then the triggers will do, like, I forget what it's called. It's like this thing where it, like, slows down time. And this is, like, for people who are super good at the game to, like, clear a bunch of lines while that's happening. And then you get, like, that crazy, like, I don't even remember the names of the different, like, it's like Ultronymous or something. I don't know. You get, like, these crazy combos that I don't even know anything about because I suck at Tetris, but yeah, so you get that, or I use it mainly when the game, like, gives me one of those, like, speed, like, boosts where the speed goes all the way up to 12, and I have to like, try to work through that. I'll usually use it there just to make it so that I don't necessarily mess up as bad as I would have otherwise, but...
Well, this was very interesting, Zach, and I think it's a good thing to end on, because I think everyone should go check out. We'll have a video about this game. It's very... this came out of nowhere for me. I have not really heard anything about this.
Well, so I remember seeing the trailer, like, a long time ago, and I remember being blown away by it. I was like, oh, what is this? Like, I never would have thought I would have been interested in Tetris, but that made it look so good that I had to check it out. And so, yeah, you may not expect that you'd be interested in Tetris, but, like, I don't know about you. When I got a Game Boy back in the 90s, it came with Tetris. And so that's how
I never had a Game Boy.
That's how I know Tetris, and that's where I originally played it. And it was also probably the last time I played it. So I'm, like, having to relearn how to play Tetris, but I don't know. It's been a lot of fun, like, way more fun than I would have expected.
I might check this out. I mean, I obviously there's like Red Dead and Smash.
Well, yeah.
Brothers
So
coming
that's
out.
the other thing. It's so crazy to me. Like, I should be trying to finish Red Dead. I should be checking out Fallout 76 or Battlefield 5 or all these other games. But instead, like, I spent several hours last night like jamming to Tetris, which I did not expect. So
I have similar things because I have been trying to use my spare time to really dig into Red Dead, but like I find once I complete my assignments on my computer, I'm just like I'm already at my computer, so I just start playing another round of Into the Breach. Remember that game?
oh yeah.
It was one of our first videos, and it's so simple and relaxing to play that I just like I can do a run in like 30 minutes, and so I just end up doing that instead of going upstairs and booting up my PS4.
Yeah, it's a weird thing where I'm like, I should try to finish Red Dead, but I know like I have to dedicate a lot of time to that. Instead, I could like quickly play through like a round of Tetris that will only take like a couple of minutes, and then I end up spending like an hour or two doing that anyway. I'm like, well, I could have made so much progress, but it's just so less daunting that it's like way more welcoming.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing. That's not what the Tetris Effect is, but it's the smaller indie arcade game style thing.
But I think that's going to do us for this week.
Wait. Do you have any parting wisdom for me?
Zach, don't just buy your turkey the day before Thanksgiving, because this is something I didn't know. You have to allow 24 hours per like 4 pounds of the turkey for it to thaw. So if you get a fairly large turkey, you're looking at like 2 to 3 days for it to thaw before you can actually, and then you need a day to brine it, and then like that's gonna take 24 hours, or sometimes it takes like 3 days if you really want to brine it, and then you can finally start cooking it. So maybe get your turkey like a week in advance.
I don't know. I saw a Mr. Bean movie one time where they just stuck a turkey in a microwave for 20 minutes and it seemed fine.
I mean, you can definitely try that. I guess I should say, and you talked about this, if you're going to fry your turkey, then forget everything I just said, because that's a completely different way of doing it. But if you're going to roast it, definitely allow for a week, unless you're Mr. Bean, because he's a cool guy.
Yeah, you might even get it stuck on your head if you're Mr. Bean. But
all right, well, we will see you probably next week. We'll probably do an episode next week, even though it's Thanksgiving.
Probably. Yeah,
But anyway,
we'll see what our schedules are like, but yeah.
We'll see you next time.
Well, hold on. Before we say see you next time, follow us on Twitter at Starside Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
And send us an email at starsidecafe@gmail.com.
I like that you plugged our stuff, but we were going to end exactly at 1 hour on my recording. And now
it's going to be, who knows what it's going to be after I get done editing this anyway.
That's true. All right, well, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.